Hello, and welcome to the Paranormal Operator YouTube channel, where we talk about all manner of things that go bump in the night. Here, we discuss sightings, investigations, news, and popular media surrounding the paranormal, supernatural, and occult phenomena. So settle in as we search for the truth. I'm your host, Adam, Operator 23. In this episode of Operator Movie Reviews, I talk about The Unbinding. So this movie dropped on streaming just yesterday, and it's a good movie. I would totally recommend it, and I'm going to give it a 5 out of 5. Just to be honest, this is good. So, we're going to start off with a non-spoiler section, and then we will get into the spoilers. So, no spoilers yet. Here we have the trailer. I'm going to run that here.
Back in January of 2016, there was a post to the paranormal subreddit by a user who used a throwaway account to tell the story of how he and one of his friends found a strange effigy in the forest in the Catskill Mountains. They did what you're never supposed to do, and they took the effigy home with them.
A majority of the objects in the museum have been donated, and a lot of them come to us from clients or people that we worked with, or people who really want to stay anonymous and they just have something that they want to get rid of, and they feel as if there's something attached to them that they're frightened of.
9 times out of 10, the things that people send us don't ever do anything strange for us. But that last 10% is where things get really interesting. And occasionally, there's 1% that changes the way that we think about haunted objects. This turned into a way bigger ordeal than we'd ever anticipated.
I felt like a small kid who was absolutely terrified.
It seemed that the larger picture was coming into view. I mean, we basically promised the crone that we were going to take it back. I looked at Dana and I said, we can never do this again. We need to do something about this.
Shut it.
Never did I ever have anything happen like it did with the crone.
I felt like I was literally looking at a living nightmare.
We failed. You have no control over her, and you have no control over us. Then it became maximum chaos. Oh my God. We bind it to the nails, and we release it.
Okay, so that is a really good trailer. It doesn't give you anything away. Like, it's good. It's purpose built, and it serves that purpose very well. Very intriguing to anyone who might be interested. So, again, I'm going to say this is a 5 out of 5. You can fight me, okay? Now, granted, I might come back later and watch it and maybe, that's too high. But right now, this thing is pretty much perfect for what it is and what I feel it's supposed to be. They accomplished the mission. So, a little bit of background. I had not heard anything about this except for one ad on Twitter. And fun because I thought, oh yeah, it's going to release, on the 9th, and I'm going to go out in the theaters and I'm going to watch it. And I'm going to support my local cinema. Well, come to find out, it released on streaming. It did not release in theaters, which is just getting off my nose. My popcorn is a lot cheaper than that at the cinema. So I watched it. When this goes up on Saturday, I'll have watched it on Friday. So hi from me in the past. So to start off with, this movie is wholly a documentary, and it centers around these people who initially, it centers around an idol. And it starts off with these hikers. They find it, they take it, and then stuff starts happening. To the point where one guy is not able to actually sleep in his house. He has to go to a friend's house and sleep over there, a grown adult male. So we have basically the activity that's being manifested are knocks, as well as some physical evidence, which we'll get to in the spoiler section. And the statue, the idol, is this guy right here. It's this lady right here. And as you can see, it does have a noose around its neck, and it has nails in its eyes. It has 3 nails in each eye. As far as the dialogue goes, a lot of it was scripted. Let me rephrase that. I don't feel like a lot of it was scripted, mainly because it was in interviews or it was live footage. And the interviews, they come across rather natural. I don't think the responses were scripted, although they may have been, but it felt really natural to me. The parts of it which were not interviews, they had some live footage from a Halloween live stream. I think in the movie it said it was in 2018. And I went to the YouTube channel for Planet Weird, and I could not find it. So maybe they don't upload, or re-upload rather, live streams. But they had that live footage, and then they also, at the end, had some footage that they had recorded when they do their final unbinding ritual at the end. The other stuff... Oh, and there is one interview with their Russian folklore specialist person. But besides that, a lot of the stuff seemed like it was recreation of events. And it actually seemed to pull them off quite well. So, overall, the editing and photography, top marks. It all flowed and fit together very well. There was very little repetition, and it seemed very straight and to the point. The main people who are in this documentary, are Dana and Greg Newkirk, and they operate the Traveling Museum of the Paranormal and Occult. You can check out their website. In fact, I'm going to open it right here. Maybe, if it'll load. There it is. So they have this website, and they keep all kinds of weird stuff. I think in the documentary it said, that they get mailed stuff all the time to their P.O. box. So this is all stuff that they have in their collection. Now, some of this stuff is legit. Like, it is the actual item. But some of them are not. Some of them are reproductions, like the Catskills crone. This one is a reproduction, and you get to see it being reproduced in the documentary, because they actually, I don't want to spoil it, but just know that that's a reproduction. At any rate, you can visit them. They also do tours. And you can support them through the membership. You can become a museum member, which I might just do that. So, that's their museum. And then you can also check out their YouTube channel. My internet's really slow right now. Come on. I don't know why it's so slow. It's almost 10:30. You know what? I bet it's the neighbors watching porn. It's probably what it is. It's probably someone streaming another video somewhere. Alright, well, we'll come back to that. So anyway, these people at Planet Wild, and Dana and Greg, they produced a TV series, a mini-series called Hellier back in 2019. And it was on a list. It's been on my list of things to watch. And having seen this documentary, it is now at the top of my list. I am definitely going to be watching this here pretty soon. And something that is kind of interesting is one of the incidents that happens that they mention is they're on tour and they're at the Michigan Paracon and they bring it out and then stuff starts happening. And it's kind of funny because Michigan Paracon just happened not too long ago, and it's an event that I list on my website and one that I'm going to make a concerted effort to try and make next year, hopefully. So, oh my gosh, it still hasn't loaded. Come on, here we go. There we go. All right. So, give them a subscribe. Turn on our notifications because they seem to have pretty interesting videos. They also do a podcast, so make sure to give them some love. All right, so spoiler warning. Spoilers ahead. In 3, 2, 1. So what happens in this movie? Well, the hiker finds it, takes it back to his house. So much activity, he can't sleep in there. He cannot sleep in his own house. And so this precipitates someone, I don't know if it's the main guy or if it's his friend, posting something to the paranormal subreddit asking what to do. And Greg chimes in. He gets brought in, I guess, because someone had seen his show or podcast or whatever and tagged him in it. And he gave him some instructions to take it back. Well, the guy goes back to his house to collect the doll, only to find that, more activity had happened to an escalated degree. And he's all like, look, this is way beyond me. I'm just going to mail it to you. Thanks for your help. So he packages it up. He mails it to the museum. They get it. And then they're like, well, people send this stuff all the time. And 99% or 90% of the time, nothing happens, right? Well, this was one of those odd instances. So they get the item, they take it out, they photograph it, kind of document it, and then put it on a shelf. Well, actually, they leave it in a chair. And, things start happening. So, the activity that went on included physical manifestations and materialization of footprints with dirt, wet footprints with water where there had been none, and mysterious areas of moisture where there was no apparent source. So, like, for instance, the hiker guy said that he saw dirt footprints on his floors. And the Newkirks found Dana found what appeared to be a wet footprint on the back of their sofa. Their sofa was wet. That water came from somewhere. So, that's just, whoo, that's pretty cool. Now, as far as the movement, because this object was moving, the initial reports from the hiker were that the idol would appear to move itself. It would appear in different rooms. He would have it one place, he'd go to bed, the next morning he'd get up, and it's in another room, completely different room. And then there was also the inciting incident where he mailed it. Essentially, he had come back to the house and found dirt footprints, but also the idol was on the floor next to the wall, and there was a crack in the sheetrock. So you put two and two together, and then you come up with this thing was thrown hard enough to crack the sheetrock somehow. I mean, that seems like the logical conclusion here. Now, the Newkirks reported movement as well. They were in their living room. They had sat this thing down on the coffee table after it had been making some noises, and were like, look, you got to stop this. We got to coexist. We're cool with you being here, but this is our house. And, some knocks came. They got up to go check. Or no, it wasn't knocks. It was the sound of running water. They thought a pipe had burst. They got up, went to go check it out, and lo and behold, there wasn't anything there. Come back, the idol was not on the coffee table. It had found its way underneath a TV stand, so like an entertainment center. Well, Greg goes to get it out, and before he can reach or grab onto the idol, it would appear, the TV is seemingly pushed so that it will fall on him. Luckily, Dana was there and caught the thing before it could have hit him. Now, obviously, it's a flat screen TV. How heavy can it be, right? It probably wouldn't hurt him even if it had hit him, but still, something moved that television. So, yeah, there's that. Now, one other incident that the Newkirks reported, one of the very first incidents, was that it ripped the figure of Jesus off of a crucifix that had been hanging on the wall. And it ripped it off so violently that one of the arms was tore off of the figure, and it was still actually hanging off of the crucifix. Now, what makes this highly intriguing is the fact that if you've ever hung something like that, it's just like a picture, right? There's a nail in the wall, and then that nail is sitting on or in a little divot or depression or, some kind of thing. It's just sitting there, right? It's not glued to the wall. But whatever did this exerted force between the cross and the Jesus, because the Jesus came off the wall and the cross was still on the wall. So that's a physics problem that I don't want to have to worry about. But something created that energy. It wasn't. I mean, there's not even kinetic energy there enough, or potential energy there to do that. Even if the thing fell off the wall, right? It boggles the mind. What in the world could have done that? Now, beyond that, we also had manifestations of a shadowy apparition that took the form of a wet crone. Now, if you're not familiar with the crone is basically an archetype of an old woman. In the pagan and Wiccan traditions, you have the maid, the mother, and the crone as a kind of female trinity. And so they called this thing the crone. And I want to say the hiker said that he did see something, or he thought he saw something that was a old black figure, probably woman, that looked tattered, and all shadowy. Dana also saw this figure. Now, whether or not it was as graphic as what they show in the documentary, I don't know. They don't really elaborate on it, but in the documentary, it shows the thing like reaching its hand in the door, opening the door, standing in the doorway, and then slowly stepping back and shutting the door. Now, I'm going to show you this image right here. This is a kikimora. And this looks kind of like the thing that they showed peeking through the door, opening the door with kind of long, spindly fingers, and just really, really creepy. So, some other stuff that happened, well, they attempt to study the thing, and one of the measurements that they take is EMF. There is a hella high reading of EMF coming off of this thing. I can't remember what it was. It wasn't a K2. It wasn't an EMF meter. It was I can't remember. Anyway, it measures EMF and is very sensitive. Another thing that happened that was highly abnormal was the fact that they scanned this thing. They did a 3D scan of it for the purposes of trying to reproduce it, because this object was too dangerous to be kept around open so people could see it. So they wanted to scan it and 3D print it. Well, the first scan went off fine. Second scan, not so much. It was weird. But what's weirder still is the fact that after having uploaded this scan to his computer, compiling the different images and all together, he had to do something about the noose. It was kind of in the way. And they were going to add an actual rope noose anyway, so they had to take that out of the scan. Well, to do that, he had to manipulate the scan in such a way or manipulate the file in such a way that the head was removed from the body. And when he did that, it started to manipulate itself. And there were finger-like projections coming out the neck of this thing. And if you look at the scan, oh my God, they're fingers. Like, you can tell they are fingers coming out of this thing. And to hear the guy talk about it, it was doing it to itself. And this was on his computer, in his software, after the fact that it had been scanned and it had been removed from its presence. He was not in the same place. This was probably, days later. And yet it was doing this, manipulating itself. What the heck? Now, in the scene where they're doing the 3D scan, they also try to do some communication. And coincidentally, it was done on a Halloween live stream. Unfortunately, I'm not able to find a recording of the live stream, so maybe they just don't upload, previous live streams. But anyway, they showed the footage in the documentary. And they used the Estes method, which is basically you have a person blindfolded, they got headphones on, headphones are connected into a spirit box. And doing this will keep the person with the headphones from being able to interact or hear or being influenced by the questioners. So basically, that first person, they're just a mouthpiece, right? Whatever comes over the spirit box, they're going to say. And they asked questions, and the responses They were direct, they seemed to be intelligent, and there seemed to be at least two different entities. Dana said that there was a male voice that seemed kind of scary, and then underneath all of it, she could hear a woman's sobbing, crying. So, possibly up to two entities are attached to this object somehow. Now, the team was finally able to shed some light on what this object was, or what it could be. They brought in a Russian and Slavic folklore specialist, and she was able to basically lay out that the mythology of the area is not whole. It's bits and pieces, and people have tried to fill in the gaps and recreate some of the stuff, or just completely fabricate it, which is kind of sad in a way, because their traditions and their history and their heritage is completely lost because it was never written down in the first place. Not that it could have survived the Soviets, but maybe it could have. At any rate, they stumble upon this because there is a population of Ukrainians that live in New York around the Catskills, which is pretty interesting. Not to mention that they were also able to track down quite possibly where the nails and the rope came from, because there's a Walmart nearby that has that same material. So that was kind of interesting. And then by the end of the documentary, they performed an unbinding ritual, and basically they released whatever was in this idol back into the universe. What did they release? We don't know. Quite possibly, it could have been this person. So this is a statue, and there's the sigil of Makosh, who is a Slavic deity very similar to Demeter, although she's almost like a synergy of Demeter and Persephone in a way. But that's her, or at least that's a statue in, I think that's in one of the Czech countries. Now, what's very interesting is this character right here. This is a Kikimora, and Kikimora, who is a companion to Makosh, can be identified by her wet footprints. That was pretty interesting, because, well, wet footprints is something that was found. Not only was that the case, but also Makosh and the Kikimora are both implicated in stealing babies. And one of the scenes was the fact that, one of the scenes depicted moisture, water, soaked into a carpet in the 3D printer guy's nursery. So, like, something soaking wet had walked into the nursery, because he could follow the footprints into the nursery, and then stood over the crib long enough to soak into the carpet. So, yeah. Luckily enough, though, his kid wasn't there. It was with he was with his mom, so the grandparent. But still, like, ooh, that's a little too real, man. So, what's left to look into? Well, while they were doing their communication, the name of Bidem, or Brother Bidem, came up. The word Bidem, we don't know what it is. We don't know where it comes from. They said that it has a root that has some kind of relation to the word prayer. So that's interesting. So you have some kind of a religiosity or religious connotation to this, which makes sense because they kind of work the angle of, maybe there was some kind of Christian pagan conflict here, and this is just me totally speculating, but I would almost say, to me, it looks like maybe there was a Christian who found this group of Slovaks or Ukrainians or Russians or whoever it was practicing their old religion. This person probably broke into their place of worship, or somehow got hold of this statue, because this is an altar statue, more or less. We're fairly certain of that. He broke whatever was in the hands off, because it did appear to be missing something, and then put a noose around its neck and drove 3 nails into each of its eyes. I could see someone doing that out of spite, if for nothing. So, Brother Bynum, if you're out there, if you're listening, why don't you drop me a line? Tell me what you did, why you did it, how you did it, when you did it. Real inquiries only, no fakes. At any rate, that's not the only question I have. So at this point, if it were me, I would have tried to do a deeper investigation, to reach out to the community, run an ad in some of the papers, try to meet and greet, press the flesh, knock on doors, do what we call the street pounding, get out there and talk to people, try and figure out, who did this, or perhaps, who's missing an idol, or, who worships Mokosh, because I'm sure you poke around hard enough, you might find them. Now, that being said, it could be a bottomless pit that leads you absolutely nowhere. But on the other hand, it might lead you closer to the truth. And at the end of the day, that's all we really want, is the truth. At the very least, though, it does beg the question as to, who was the entity that was trapped or bound in or to this idol, as well as how this entity was able to manipulate a 3D scan while not present, as though the scan file itself was possessed. It boggles the mind. And, this has piqued my interest. So much so that I might very well do a deep dive on this, if I can. Because, my gosh. They captured movement. This idol moved, and they captured it on a still, between 2 frames of a still IR camera. But they captured movement. That is like the gold standard right there. And this thing did it. So, man, I might have to do an investigation. I might have to do a deep dive on this just to, scratch my own itch. But folks, definitely give this a watch. It is worth your time. It is worth the $4 to rent. I bought it. I think it was $9 or $10 on Amazon. Definitely go out, support these folks, because I think they're doing really good work. Anyway, that's all I have for today. And you can let me know what you think in the comment section down below if you saw the movie. And until next time, folks, keep searching in the darkness.